And we are live. Good evening, everyone. It's a delight again to have you joining us here, and it's really a pleasure. My name is Emmanuel Ohina. It's a wonderful time to be here this evening, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. And I want to say thank you to you, the audience, for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us wherever you are across Africa, in Accra, in Lagos, in Nairobi, and in South Africa, wherever that you are joining us from. Good evening, African continent. This is the first of our class for the Web3 Mastery course, where we'll be going through a series of learning. The motive for this course is very simple, right? The objective is very direct. We want to educate developers and teach you about the BNB Chain ecosystem and take you through a series of learning over the next couple of 6 weeks, where we'll teach you how to build on the BNB Chain, right? And for that purpose, we have invited experts in the Web3 ecosystem across the African continent that will be sharing from their word of knowledge and expertise with our developer community. And please, if you're a newbie, don't be discouraged because I said the developer community, right? Because developers are also newbies are also very much welcome, right? And so this evening, I am quickly going to run you through an introductory session before I bring on our guest that will be speaking to you today. So this is the Web3 Mastery course with BNB Chain. And over the course of the next 6 weeks, the goal is simple. Like I said, we have just one objective: to turn you into a Web3 master. And what does that really mean, right? Does it mean that at the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to be building DeFi solutions that the next billion users are going to be onboarded to? Well, who knows? Does it also mean that you're going to be building governance systems that are going to be adopted by governments across the world? Well, who knows? But that said, there is one thing that rest assured that we are going to be leaving you with at the end of the 6 weeks learning course, right? We are going to learn the requisite things that you need to know to start building blockchain solutions. Because for what is worth, living on the African continent, we have opportunities available, right? I do not see them as challenges. I see them as opportunities available to build solutions that we as Africans can build to solve problems in Africa, right? And not just build to solve problems in Africa, we would be able to export this solution to other parts of the world. And if you haven't yet joined us on the BNB Chain Telegram, this is the right opportunity to do so, because I really do not understand why you're not in there yet. So, and next thing I'm going to do is walk you through what we are going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of 6 weeks, right? In our week one, which is like today, we are going to be introducing you to blockchain and consensus mechanisms. And when I introduce our guest speaker, you'd begin to understand how much value you're going to be getting out of this session today. And then we'll move on to week two, where we would be talking about getting started with the BNB docs. And we'll walk you through everything that you need to learn in our docs. And this is very crucial for Web2 developers who want to move into the Web3 ecosystem, right? There are particular sort of APIs that you can leverage upon, and you can start building solutions immediately without having to understand Solidity and everything else. And then in week three, we are going to teach you how to set up your dev environment and start with our first intro to smart contracts. And I can't wait to get to week three because the person that we have speaking with us in week three, it's someone that a lot of you know, but at that point in time, I think it's too early to let the cat out of the bag. So we'll continue anyways. So week four, we'll continue with smart contracts, gear you up on the fundamentals and start writing your contracts, right? Your very first contract. And then with five, we'll build an end-to-end dApp and deploy this dApp on the BNB chain. Like we said, The Web3 Mastery course, the vision is simple, right? We want to equip you with the requisite knowledge that you need to start building immediately on the BNB chain, right? So, and then in week 6, we are going to be talking about the importance of security, and we explore the BNB ecosystem of tools that is fondly referred to as DAppB. And the person that we are going to be having for week 6, oh my goodness, let me not let the cat out of the bag. And having said that, it is my pleasure and delight this wonderful evening. Like Fame Zone said, let's go. And I'm going to be adding to the stream right now our guest speaker for this evening, who I'm going to allow to come on and make their introduction. Hi,
Hi,
Usayo.
hi, Emmanuel. Thanks for having
Drum
me.
roll.
Hi, everyone. Hi, the African community. Hi, wherever you're watching us from. Good evening. I'm really excited and happy to be here today.
Thank you so much, Busayo. Without wasting much time, I'm going to leave the session to you for you to like take it away from here.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Hello, everybody. It's really nice to be here. I really want to say like a big thank you for Emmanuel for bringing me like over as a speaker. This is like one of the topics I really like love to talk about, like blockchain, because years ago too, like I was just like many of you who might be on the call who had like no idea about blockchain or who want to like know more about blockchain and were confused. So I'll just give a little brief introduction about me. So my name is Busayo. I'm a developer relations engineer. So basically, I heard about blockchain actually in 2019. So backstory, I was working like as a software engineer, mostly like backend. So I was just like flipping through the internet there, like faithfully on 2019, and I just came across like blockchain. So it was kind of like fascinating. So I started to like read more about it to understand. So just like how people on the call now, I was trying to like look for resources to go to. I was watching videos, trying to like join live streams where like I could get more knowledge. And then an opportunity came up that's in 2019. So Ethereum Foundation, as at then, were running a scholarship program. So the program was basically to help people to be able to come for DEFCON 5. So DEFCON 5 is a very DEFCON is actually a very like one of the biggest crypto conferences, basically organized by Ethereum Foundation. So I was just like, okay, this sounds good, right? So I just decided to apply for the scholarship because it was like all expense paid, and then you were going to like learn a lot of stuff. And then apart from traveling too as well, you were going to like get access to some courses, take some certifications and things like that. So it sounded really interesting. And then I was like, okay, I applied for it and I was lucky enough to get it. And I'll forever be grateful for that opportunity from Ethereum Foundation. So we're quite like a couple of people, about 50 people who got into the program. So what we did was we took some courses, and one of the courses that we took was blockchain foundation and use case, which I would still recommend to everyone who wants to get started with blockchain. It's on Coursera and it's a very, very good course. It takes you like how it takes you on what blockchain is and basically like around decentralizations and things like that. And then there's also like a quiz after. So yeah, I took that course, and then after we took that course, we had like some bounties where like you do a tax and then get rewarded for it. Then after we did all of that, we got like certifications for being a scholar. We got like proof of attendance on the blockchain that we could like show off to say, okay, we're attendants. And then like some people like also like headed to the conference. But unfortunately for me, I couldn't attend the conference due to like visa issues. But regardless, like it was really a very beneficial thing to me because like since then I've been like all on blockchain like since 2019. So what is really, really beneficial to me. So from there I've been like working with a couple of companies, mostly like as a technical writer, also as a smart contract developer and a developer relations engineer. So that's like a brief like background story about how I got into blockchain. So today we're going to be talking about introduction to blockchain and consensus mechanism. and we have like different points that we're going to be treating. So we're going to be talking about what blockchain technology is, and then we're going to be talking about the history of blockchain. Also, we'll be talking about the characteristics of blockchain, like what makes blockchain quite special, and then the types of blockchain that we have. We're also going to be talking about introduction to consensus mechanisms and the types of consensus mechanism. And then we're also going to be looking at why it's quite like an interesting thing to learn blockchain technology and the type of careers you can get if you learn this technology. So we're going to start now. What is blockchain? Right. So blockchain is a shared immutable ledger that facilitates the process of recording transactions and tracking assets in a network. So that's like a lot of like English and grammar. So I'm just going to like break it down. So we can just start taking it like one after the other. I'd like to start like with ledger. So um normally like we know ledger is basically like a service book or a large volume of book that it's basically like in one place and is openly accessible. And right from like time memorial, back like in the 80s, 70s, 90s, like we had like ledger books that were like incorporated and used by most companies. So what is used for is any book basically that is used to record transactions of events or of purchases of sales is basically a ledger. So any kind of business like can use a ledger, ranging from like the supermarket to the pharmacy, real estate, whatever thing that has to do with transactional data. As long as there's transaction, they have ledgers, which is why we can bring that same knowledge into blockchain and say basically you can apply blockchain anywhere, like across like everywhere. So that's why like that's something interesting about blockchain. Like it follows like ledger technology. So as we all know, like the history of ledger. So when we're still using like paper technology and stuff like that, you have to like confirm a transaction because yeah, I once like worked in a supermarket, my mom's supermarket, like back then when I was young. And then if you want to like confirm like transactions that you did for the day, so you just like, you write every transaction down, every sale down, and then you go back to it and check it. And then you always do like check and balance. And then some of us like studied in Africa or Nigeria. We did like business studies where you do like accounting and then you have to like, do a lot of accounting for that to check. So after that, we moved, technology made us advance and we moved from paper technology to having to like use applications. So you see like if you go to like some supermarkets or pharmacies, like they record stuff like on the computer on the system. So all these systems use what we call like a database. So the database basically is going to like have like all the record of the transactions, and then there's like the interface that you can always like refer to that will always like display data for you as a when you need that. So it works like the same way, more like as the paper does, but just mostly advanced. So yeah, blockchain too is basically like that kind of like um way, like that kind of technology, basically like a ledger. And we say that blockchain is an immutable ledger. So immutable means that it doesn't change. So it's how it is. Permits me to say like it's the same like today, yesterday, and forever, something like that. But yeah, like it's immutable. So I'm going to give like a very little illustration for people who like have like the very faint idea. So I want to go like really, really like simple to explain how it works and how we can picture blockchain. So let's picture like a scenario like there's a community, for example, like maybe a rural community that has like couple of people there, and then like they always like sell things to each other, they buy things from each other. Now, every time that they buy something from each other or they sell something from each other, right? They have to go and meet like an accountant. Right. So the accountant has like a paper every day where he writes out like transactions that have been done. Like, okay, Mr. A bought something from Mr. C for this amount at this time. Mr. B bought something from Mr. D for this amount at this time. So he has like all those kind of paper. Then what it does is that at the end of every day, he goes to like the city center or like the center of the community, and then it goes to like paste the paper. So let's say they just started to do that today. So the first day, he notes down all the transactions that people do every day, and he goes to paste it like at the city center. And then so that way, like, it's public. So that's what blockchain is about. Like, everybody can see the transactions. So if you're interested in seeing the transactions, you just like go to the network. So same way, you just go to the city center or the town center to check like such transactions. And then what it does is that they repeat the same process for the next day. Now for the next day, what happens is that the whatever was pasted like the previous day, he finds a way to like staple or glue it on what was shown on the previous day. So you can flip through like per day and check like, okay, this is what for this particular date. Maybe today is Friday. You can check like for Tuesday, just flip over and check like all the transactions that happen. So in blockchain, you can see that way that their transaction happens like time stamply. So like it does daily, yearly, weekly, seconds, milliseconds. Yeah, it happens that way, and you can always like trace back as much time as you can, or as any time as you can. Now, still following this story, he staples it in such a way that you can't like drag it out. You're not allowed to like change the figures on it. So if you attempt to like drag it out, it's obvious that okay, it has been tampered with. But then like the rule is that nobody like drags or try to like tear any paper out. So that's the same way like that it works in blockchain. So each piece of paper from that my scenario represents a block, and each block is in a linear sequence, and the sequence contains like transactions. So anybody can go back and look at the transactions like anytime, like years back to whenever like the system started. That's why like you can always like go back and check, okay, when the first smart contract was executed, things like that. Like you can always like go back. For example, if you buy a domain, there's something that I would call domain or ENS. You can check like the day you bought the ENS, and you can always like refer back to it basically. So that's like a um brief description for blockchain if anybody like is finding it hard to understand like how it works. Then on the blockchain too, anything of value can be tracked and traded virtually. So anything basically can be on the blockchain, anything can be traded as long as like it has value and it needs to be tracked or traded. You can keep it on the blockchain. And then blockchain also helps like reduce risk and then the costs for all that is involved. So we can from here we can begin to see like the reasons why we need blockchain, because even though we had like digital ledger or like databases that are powerful and flexible, right? They can also be tampered with. So because like I've worked as a software engineer and I've worked in like some couple of organizations, there are some things that you can do like on the database, like you can edit stuff on the database. If you have the rights and the permissions to work like on the database, you can edit stuff, tamper with data, and it can be such a way that you can't even trace it. So that's the problem that blockchain is trying to solve. Like you won't be able to do that. So everything that you do is traced and transparent. So we're going to now go to the history of blockchain, like how it started. So it's funny, right? Like when I learned about blockchain too, and I started seeing like the year that it had started and everything, and I was like, oh my god, like I wasn't even born then, like 1991. I literally wasn't born then. So it has come like a long way. It has been existing, right? People have been researching about it like long time ago, but it's just like recently that we're beginning to like see like the evolution and seeing people like building and working on it. So it goes back to 1991 really, where like two geeks, like pair of physicists, their names are Stuart Haber and Scott Stonetta. So they're basically like trying to like do research, and they found out that there was a problem, and people are always trying to like look for solutions to problems and stuff like that. So they found out that there was a big problem. Now the big problem was, how do we like keep the past secure? So we are in the future, right? And then like we need to know, how do we keep the past secure? How do we keep digital information safe? how do we resist tampering? Like how do we stop people from tampering from past information? So these two came together and they put their heads together and researched, and they published the first paper. So what the paper basically was to do was to align the use was to outline the use of cryptography. So they came up with an idea that okay, there should be a way that we can have like blocks of we can have blocks that can be secured, right, cryptographically, because basically blockchain is mostly like based on like cryptography, so like hashing and things like that. So they came up with a paper, and yeah, and that was when like we say of kind of like officially the whole like birth of blockchain started happening, and it was from this research that we now started having like other ideas of the potentials of blockchain. And then after that, in 1991, we moved to 1992, where the concept of Mercury now became like prominent, and it was always like okay, this was what was going to make blockchain efficient. So basically, Mercury is basically a tree in which like I mean, all trees have leaves. Most trees, let me generalize, most trees have leaves, and each leaf represent like nodes, and the nodes are labeled with, cryptographic hash of data block. So Mercury was when 1992 was when Mercury was invented, and it's still like very much like in use today, like valid today, like historically, for people that code, like it's still referenced still today. Then after that, actually, in 1993, we actually had like we actually were introduced to proof of work. So like it's just really fascinating how like people have been researching and have been like doing a lot of research around this area like since the early 90s. And then after that, in 2020, 2004, sorry, Hal Finney now introduced reusable proof of work. And then we now move to 2008, which is where like, most people were now, beginning to like seem interested and things. Even as at 2008, not a lot of people got interested as it is now, or as at maybe 2010, 2012, 2018, something like that. So in 2008, we had Nakamoto, the conceptual, they brought out the theory of distributed blockchains. So they released, or he released, or Satoshi released a seminal white paper that ushered like the age of like blockchain, and that paper was called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and that was like actually when Bitcoin was birthed, which is like very common today, one of like the common cryptocurrencies that we know about today. And um cryptocurrency is one of the um, major use cases of blockchain, because like most people think that, or some people think that like crypto is the same thing as blockchain, but it's just one of like the common and most relatable use case as at today. So the paper that Nakamoto released technically defined like central aspects of blockchain, which is what you have today, and it was mostly like centered around Bitcoin. So that's like a brief like history of blockchain. So we are now going to go to like the characteristics of blockchain. So there are a lot of like characteristics of blockchain, or what makes blockchain special, or what makes blockchain different. So the first one that I'm addressing is decentralization. So I know this is quite controversial because a lot of people say, oh, like they don't think decentralization exists. Some say is re-centralization. So like there are quite like a lot of like talks around decentralization. But yeah, like one of the things that blockchain is aiming at, or aims at, or is being decentralized. So decentralization. And what I mean by decentralization is no governing authority or a single person looking after the framework. So decentralization is fundamentally about shifting power and authority like in a community way. So still referring back, if you remember the scenario that I gave about like a community who they always like write their transactions, and I mean they always like go to an accountant to tell them about their transactions, who go to the city center to paste it and things like that. So imagine another scenario where like there's actually like no accountant. So like maybe there's just like a cardboard or a board, I don't know, at the city center, and then the people who are both involved in the transactions are the ones that are going to like write the transactions themselves, the timestamp and everything. So that's one of the things that blockchain is trying to address. So decentralization, which is like I said, fundamentally about shifting power and authority from one central entity, right, and making power available to members of the community themselves. So it makes like the members of the community sovereign. So this is what like most technology blockchain technologies that have come up today um are aiming to achieve or have achieved as well. So it helps to empower people basically. So decentralization helps to empower people, makes you know that yes, you are in charge of your of your funds, or you're in charge of you're in charge of technology basically. Yeah, that's like one of the major selling points, right, of blockchain. And then another one is immutability. So like I said before, like it doesn't change. So whatever like it's on the blockchain remains the same way. And immutability, yeah, basically means something that can't be changed or altered. So yeah, on the blockchain, like transactions, once they have like been approved, once they are successful, they are final. So they can't be changed or altered basically. And then another striking feature about blockchain is it's all about like distributed ledgers. So we have like ledgers, like blocks, like which are distributed, networks which are distributed. So everything is all out in the open, it's transparent, most of it like, and it's really open, really. It's very open technology. Then another thing which is like really important to quite a huge selling point for blockchain is it's highly secured. So, like I mentioned about mercutaries, so almost in fact everything like on the blockchain, like technically the fundamentals and everything is based around cryptography. So it's highly secured. Everything is like hashed. And then, the way hashing works, if some people here are probably like, computer geniuses or like studied like computer science and stuff. So hashing is quite complex. And when something is hashed, is quite like impossible to alter it or reverse it. So that's one of like the huge things about blockchain is highly secured. Then we have consensus based. So because I'm still going to talk about consensus mechanisms, I'm just going to summarize this. So basically, consensus helps to like make decisions for the network. So consensus is basically like an agreement, and that's what blockchain does because it's decentralized and because it involves like community, like shifting power from one person to community. So consensus helps like the network make better decisions as opposed to like making decisions like by one person or one single entity. Then another thing, which is like I would say like one of like the most relatable things and which solves like problems like across the world is quick settlement. So imagine like people who live in like different geolocations, like families who have to like send money to each other, or like people who maybe work across the world, so jobs they want to be paid, it's quite hard to be paid like in their local currencies and stuff. So with blockchain, like we have like quick settlement, and with blockchain like there's no downtime, and then we have transactions that are settled like in seconds. So imagine that you have to like send some money or you have to receive some money. You don't have to like wait for the bank for 2 to 3 days before you get wired. You basically just need to like use the blockchain technology, use crypto technology, and then get your money in like in like seconds. And then there are countries now that I know of, like one that basically like Bitcoin is now like their legal tender. So like because they had like issues like with the bank, and then like they just like decided to use like Bitcoin and it's a legal tender, and then things are like faster for them, transactions are faster and things like that. So that's one of like the huge like selling points also of blockchain technology. It allows for quick settlement like in finance. Then we're going to talk about the types of blockchain networks. So we have like several types of blockchain network. So we have public blockchain network. So the public blockchain network is basically those kind of networks where anyone can join and participate in the network. So it's 100% like open for anybody to join in. People are free to come to the network, for example, to create a node, become a validator, become a miner, things like that. And some of the examples of this blockchain that are public are, we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, like they are quite like public and open. Then the next one we have is private blockchain networks. So for private blockchain networks, right, an organization governs the network controlling participation. So you might want to maybe ask that, okay, but we're trying to be transparent and things like that. So the thing with private blockchain networks is that some things, some features like just need to be aligned that way. So it's still using and leveraging the same blockchain technology, but it's just that it's just governed by controlling participants, and these same participants actually are the one that are going to like agree on it. So it's still not like single like central one person, but it's still like controlled by participants. And some of examples of private blockchain networks are, we have IBM, then we have Hyperledger, there's Tezos, and there's Coda as well. I recently actually was doing a lot of study like around Coda. So most people that are doing things around like agriculture mostly like use like this Coda blockchain network. And then we also have permission blockchain network. Now I think with private blockchain can come in form of like permissioned and also consortium. So for permission blockchain network is basically a private blockchain with permission network. So that way, like, it's easy to regulate a community that is built on permission blockchain. So you have to be given permission to be on that network. So people who want to like commit fraud or want to be like malevolent can like get like suspended based on like the votes from the community, and then it's easy to track changes as well and delegate authority to participants who are highly active. And then we have consortium. And then one example of permission um, blockchain network is Coda that I mentioned, and also Quorum. Then we have consortium blockchain networks. So it's quite different from how private blockchain networks, just normal private blockchain network works, because basically for consortium we have multiple organizations that can share the responsibilities of maintaining the network. So different organizations like come together, team up, and then they handle like all the maintenance, everything that comes like with the responsibility of maintaining a blockchain. And then one of the private blockchain network that also stands as a consortium blockchain network is Hyperledger. So those are basically like types of blockchain networks. Then we're going to proceed to consensus mechanisms. So um, we can start from talking about what consensus is. So what do you mean by consensus basically? So we mean that a general agreement has been reached. That's just it. That's it's just as simple as that. A general agreement has been reached. So let's take a scenario, like just a simple scenario of couple of friends, right? Who have agreed that okay, on Saturday we're going for wine tasting at a particular restaurant and we're only going to like taste wine and that's it. And then if everybody like says, okay, fine, that's fine by me, just going to wine and that's it. So if there's no agreement on that choice, the proposed choice, then consensus has been achieved. So you say consensus has been achieved if there's no disagreement on a proposed choice. But then if there is a disagreement, maybe someone says, oh no, like I just want to taste wine. I'm going to have like some, food after, or I'm just going to maybe want to like drink another drink like vodka, or I want to take shots too, something like that, then there's a disagreement. So there's no consensus in that matter. So when we want to apply it now to blockchain, we can say consensus mechanism refers to the all the entirety of protocols, everything that has to like incentives and ideas that allow a blockchain network, that allow, yeah, network of nodes to agree on a state of a blockchain. So the blockchain always has a state. At every point in time, there are states. The blockchain network always has a state. So everything that surrounds having a state is what we call as consensus mechanism. So like protocols, incentives, ideas, and whatever that brings like an agreement about a state of a blockchain is called consensus mechanisms. So for example, if you take a look at probably like Ethereum, which is a proof of stake consensus mechanism. So we have like validators on Ethereum who come and like they have to like stake some of their um ether, right, to be able to like maintain the security of the network. So for every like transaction that happens like on that network, you have people who like have to agree and say, okay, like yeah, this transaction like is good to go. It's also applicable like in Bitcoin. So if you send like some Bitcoin to another person, there are a couple of blocks that have to be fulfilled. So all the things like around making all these blocks to be fulfilled, or around making a transaction to be successful, or around making the state to be what it is at that particular time, is called consensus mechanism. Then we're going to be talking about the types of consensus mechanisms that we have. So we have like several types of consensus mechanism. Like I mentioned in the history, we have like proof of work, yeah, and then yeah, that's what I mentioned like in the history, which was like the foremost consensus mechanism that came up. So proof of work, basically, the idea behind proof of work is that it solves a complex mathematical puzzle and basically easily gives out a solution. So we have like several networks that use proof of work. For example, Bitcoin, the consensus mechanism around Bitcoin is proof of work. Then the next consensus mechanism we have is proof of stake. So what's proof of stake? Basically, validators come, they invest in the coin of the system. How do they invest? By locking up some of their coins in the stakes. So what some of the examples of proof of stake, or one common blockchain network that uses proof of stake, is Ethereum. So like I was explaining earlier, people come, they hold Ethereum, and then like they lock some of their coins, and that way like is used to like protect the network. Another thing that I forgot to mention is, so consensus mechanism also allows to protect the network. So it secures the system. So whatever thing to or entirety that is around like securing the system is also part of like consensus mechanism. So another consensus mechanism to mention is delegated proof of stake. So in this kind of consensus mechanism, it depends like on the basis of delegation of votes. So that's what will determine like, okay, how do we like do this? How do we control the state? And then yeah, like that's basically what like delegated proof of stake does. Then we have proof of stake capacity. So basically we have like some validators as well who might not like necessarily invest or like lock up their coins. What they do is that they invest their hard drive space. So the more hard drive space they have, the better chances they have. And one of the very common protocol that actually does this is graph protocol. So the graph protocol, like they have like several um they have like several rules. So some people just like stake their coins. Some people like invest like their hard drive space as well. Even like for proof of work, like we have people, because like they mine blockchain, so they have to like dedicate part of their CPU for securing the and helping out basically in building out the blockchain network. Then we have proof of elapsed time. So for this, all the nodes have to wait for a random amount of time for adding proof of their weight in the block. Yeah, so these are basically like the types of consensus medicine that we have, and then the last one we're going to talk about today is proof of bond. So for this, this is very common. If some of us maybe are familiar or heard about like NFTs, so if you mint NFTs, some of them like have to be bond, and then like yeah, also different coins at some point have been bond. You can read about it later, like bonding of like cryptocurrencies. So validators basically like bond coins. And how do they bond these coins? They bond the coins by sending them to an address from where they are um, irretrievable. So all these like are types of considered mechanism. And then we have like some other ones. That we also have like proof of history. Proof of history kind of works the same way as proof of elapsed time as well. So those are the kind of like consensus mechanisms that we have. Then we're going to be talking about careers in Web3, which is like one of like the very like interesting topic that and one of like the interesting things that I love to talk about because career is my time up, Emmanuel. Okay, yeah. So careers
No, I
in
was saying
Web3.
keep going, but we have a couple
Yes.
of questions that I'm going to ask,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And then I am going to like make this a bit interactive. But when you're done, just keep going.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. All right. Yeah, this is like the last slide, so yeah, I'm like done like in a couple of minutes. So we have like several careers in Web3. So like I said, I was working as a software developer, basically like backend. My major stack was C Sharp, .NET Core, and I was working like in finance and stuff like that. So I was able to transition as a like software engineer as well, right? But then like I was more tailored into like technical writing and developer relations engineering. So I'm not going to give like a couple of careers briefly that we can have in Web3. So there's blockchain developer role. So for the blockchain developer, right, this role basically involves like designing, building on blockchain technology. So it requires that okay, you have to have some knowledge about some blockchain programming languages. And then we also have like smart contract developers. So they work on like development of smart contracts. And smart contract basically, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but it's just sort of like an agreement that um the yeah an agreement that goes on chain basically. Then we also have community managers. So like there are so many communities right now, and also wanted to mention is one of the things that has helped me like so far, or one of the things that has made me like know some more things than I have not have known is the community. And so we have like community managers who manage the community for different like blockchain technologies, blockchain products, just like we have right now. Like it's a community manager that organize these events for BNB Chain. Then we have cryptocurrency analysts, like crypto analysts. So this one's like they analyze crypto and all the blockchain around it. So they research around it, they identify the trends around it, they make predictions for the future. So it's not just like technical roles. So if you are very good at like research or analysis and you like to read, probably like you do stock trading and things like that. So like you have like a career already in Web3 as a crypto analyst. Then we have like designers. So we have Web3 designers. If you are very good at designing user interfaces, you're very good at user experience, and you can also design websites. So this is like one role for you. Then there are quite many really. Then we have like product managers. So if you have be working probably as a product manager for like a regular product or regular Web3 products, you have like a career in Web3. Then we have like blockchain consultant, security specialist, we have token designers. So if you are interested in like maybe building a token or something or designing a token, you can become a token designer. Then we have technical writers as well, like you can become a Web3 writer. We have like blockchain educators. We have like traders. We have like marketers. You want to be a marketer, market a product. Yeah, you are free. Then, I mean, there are so many roles presently that you can fit into with the skill that you have, and then couple of other roles too, like are still coming up. Yeah, so it's a very like wide space, has a lot of potentials, has a lot of like opportunities coming up. Yeah, thank you very much.
So it apparently it turns out that I actually butted in right there, right? I wasn't like supposed to butt in like that.
Yeah,
So
that's
I wasn't was
we should
yes,
take some water.
yes.
Yeah.
So I wasn't supposed to butt in like that, right? Because we are walking us through a couple of career options available in the Web3 space, right? I think we're still going to come down to that conversation. And while you are taking a breather, I want to say the comments here have been blowing up. We
Oh,
actually have
wow.
a couple of fans from across the continent. Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. Unfortunately, I can't see if I can see there.
Yeah, it is. So I think we are going to go back to
I think we're waiting for Emmanuel. Yeah, technology doesn't work for him either. Hi, Emmanuel.
Hi, Busaya. Do I still have you there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm here. I'm here.
Do I still have you there, Busayo?
Yes, yes. I'm
Oh, okay.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. 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 So, like I said, yeah, our comments we are blowing up, and then you have a couple of fans from across the continent, and it's a pleasure. So, we are just going to go through into some of the questions that we have here. And I think one of them is from Injay Nicodemus. And the
Okay.
question is he says, please, how is the blockchain database designed? So that is the question right there on the screen right now.
Okay. Yeah. How? Okay. How is the blockchain database designed? So, well, I think this depends on the kind of like network you're referring to or you're going to work on. So they have like different ways of designing. There's no like one way of designing it. So probably maybe BNB Chain or like Emmanuel will probably share like resource around that because like it's more complicated than that. For example, for Ethereum, we have like virtual machines, and it's a bit like different from how like um, Bitcoin or yeah Bitcoin network is. So it's just it really actually varies, right? And it depends on the utility of your network, what you're trying to like achieve. Yeah, the kind of like users that you want on your network as well. So there's no like one way of designing like the blockchain database.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we are going to go to the next question. It says, what is the difference between smart contracts and consensus mechanisms? And this is from Justice Achilike.
Okay. There are really there are two like different things, but and they work hand in hand. So, like I said, consensus mechanisms are basically like everything from incentives to technology to everything that makes sure that a blockchain state is where it is. So perhaps I need to like talk more about blockchain states. So we have like different states of the blockchain. For example, let me take transaction as an example. You can have a failed transaction, we can have a successful transactions. So before a transaction can be marked as successful, it has to like pass through like some processes. You won't notice these processes really, right? because it happens like very fast. Like it's very fast. So everything that makes it happen, everything that makes that state, let's say the transaction state to be successful is consensus mechanism. So it's an underlying technology, right? You can't actually like see it. But every underlying technology that makes the state of a transaction, for example, or that makes a blockchain state the way it is at a particular time is called what we refer to as consensus mechanism. Also, consensus mechanism is the as well as the underlying factors that make sure that a network is secured. So for every blockchain network, it has to be secured, right? So all the things that are being done for it to be secured is consensus mechanism. So for example, some they have to like, carry out like some mathematical functions. People have to like solve it or the system has to solve it before the state of a blockchain is determined. That's part of like what is consensus mechanism, part of what like secures the system. Also, there are some that you have to like drop your money, stake your money, some huge amount of money that will secure the system is also like part of consensus mechanism. So that's like for consensus mechanism. I hope like that's quite clear. But for a smart contract, basically a smart contract is code that is being deployed to the blockchain. So a smart contract is what is going to handle all the functions of um, a blockchain, or all the functions of an application. So for example, you have an application idea. Let's say like you want to like create a let's say an event application, for example, like an event application on the blockchain, like Eventbrite, for example, on the blockchain. So that smart contract, right? You write a couple of codes and functions that will be needed for your event application to work. That's like that's a smart contract. So basically, like it's a code that is executed like on the blockchain. And then smart contract mostly like it's tended towards like the Ethereum network as well. I hope like I'm able to like distinguish between both.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you practically distinguish between both, and then you went on to answer a part of the next question from Vicent, because
Yeah.
Vicent is asking why does different consensus mechanisms exist, right? And also, as an addendum to that, the security level increase or decrease based on a given mechanism.
Yeah. So for the second question, yes. So security level increase and decreases based on mechanism. So that's why, and that is why there are different consensus mechanism, right? Firstly, like we had like proof of work. If proof of work was like enough, right? We won't have like proof of stake. And one of the reasons why we have proof of stake today is because proof of work takes a lot of energy. So recently, Ethereum was on proof of work. So they moved from proof of work, that they changed their consensus mechanism entirely. It took years for them to change from proof of work to proof of stake because like it was energy consuming. So just like Bitcoin, I know people mine Bitcoin, you have to use a CPU. So imagine like having data centers that are mining like a lot of like Bitcoin. Imagine like the smoke and everything, how it affects the environment. The other one was like, okay, like we have to like come up with like proof of stake. And then like all those other like proofs, for example, the one I mentioned, like around like staking as well. Some people don't have like the coins to put down, but they have like the hard disk drive. So yeah, let's also like come up with that. And then some that has to do with like history, like okay, let's monitor how the history of this blockchain is. So because like technology and basically things around, things have to be improved. So we have like a lot of research done around it. So yeah, that is why different consensus mechanism exist, and depending on the solution that you're trying to do. So there are different like dApps, they have like different utilities, they have different problems that they are solving. Like for example, there are protocols or blockchain networks that they tell you that okay, because on Ethereum, like you have to like probably use Solidity and things like that. Someone can come up and say, okay, you don't have to know how to use Solidity, right? I have a technology that whatever code you have, right, it will convert it or whatever, and it will be compatible with the Ethereum network. So that's a different like kind of like problem that they are solving. So they most likely like need another consensus mechanism. So this is why like different consensus mechanism exist.
I mean, thank you very much for that because that's segues immediately into what Justice is asking that I'm going to answer, right? So
Right.
at BNB Chain, we actually use the proof of stake consensus mechanisms, right? It's actually also referred to as the proof of stake authority because we have a certain number of validators that are 21 in all that have the ability to like vote and then decide on where the particular improvement proposals, we call them evolution proposals on the chain, what direction the chain should go in terms of growth and development. So, and I think I'm just going to run quickly through the questions that I think are meant for me. And Taufik is asking, is there any internship after the program? So, I am going to really use this opportunity to explain what our objectives here are at BNB Chain, especially regards this region of the world, and that is the African continent, right? So, in terms of opportunities that are available, right? So this particular Web3 masterclass, it's brought to you guys by the developer community, right? And one thing that we are keen on, and when I say we, that means my team and I, at BNB Chain, it's focusing on education and innovation projects, right? And regarding the education programs, this is one part of our education programs. Our mission is simple, right? To educate by passing knowledge to everyone across the African continent, both developers and non-developers, on ways on not just information about blockchain technology, but on ways to build on blockchain technology. Because we believe that education typically leads to innovation, because it's when people know enough, that is when they can build, provide solutions that will lead them to innovate. And to answer directly to the internship program, so the thing is this, right? We at BNB Chain, we actually have opportunities available, and I'm going to share those in the link for interns to join us. But that is not a promise that this program directly like leads to internship opportunities for you. So what we do have are initiatives that are going to come up during the course of the year that would talk to our partners and then see how we can have some sort of placements, not just for internships, but for builders in the space as well, right? And like I said, so we are focusing first on education programs, and then when we get to innovation programs, we'll be able to like provide opportunities like jobs. And currently, regarding the innovation programs, I'm actively making introductions to our team here at BNB. And if you're a developer on the African continent and you are building a solution and you are yet to deploy on the chain that has 3 times more active addresses than the next competitor, I really don't know what you're waiting for, right? And also, I'm going to share our Telegram channel where you can join us and then have conversations. Emmanuel is saying, thank you. Oh, that's a namesake there. Hi, Emmanuel. Emmanuel says, thank you, Emmanuel and Busayo, for giving us this introduction. Like I said, Busayo, you have a lot of fans across the continent.
Thanks for joining. I'm glad that you enjoyed the session.
Oh, apparently, Justice is having a good time here with us because he has another questions.
Okay.
So he says, I'm going to put it up on the screen and then read it out. If blockchain technology is decentralized and has distributed ledger, why
Yeah.
does a private blockchain exist?
Yeah. Yeah. I can answer that. So we have to actually like be honest like with ourselves for some time. So I'll give a scenario like, right? For example, let's say like you have a solution, because let's say you have a solution, right, that is supposed to like cut across like rural areas. For example, it's supposed to help like farmers, right? Now, those farmers don't necessarily know that it's blockchain that is solving their problem. They just know that, oh, they're going to be getting money in their account, right? So private blockchain exists based on the problem that you're trying to solve. So back to like the farming problem, right? You have like a solution, you're trying to help farmers to get money and things like that, to get them like on the blockchain. They don't understand like what the blockchain is, right? And you have to like do something called supply chain, right? There has to be like a supply chain. So you probably or most likely, right, want to protect these farmers, right? You want to protect them, that okay, so someone's not like, okay, why is this person like any more than me, like something around. I'm just giving like a scenario. For example, supply chain, like with pharmacies, because it's not just money that moves on the blockchain. You have like transactions, like mostly this is applicable. I would say, in my the best of my knowledge, one of the most applicable use cases for me for private blockchain is supply chain. So if you're trying to like supply some things and it's moving across the blockchain, there's kind of like a privacy that is still sort of needed. It doesn't mean it's not decentralized, because there are still like bodies surrounding it. It's still decentralized, right? But it's just like still controlled by a community of people who want to keep things private. Yeah.
That is amazing, Busayo. Thank you very much for the comments, guys. I think we have another question from Soccer Focus that I want you to answer. So it says, who are token designers and what
Yeah.
is Web3 data analysis?
Yeah. So token designers, basically like your crypto, for example, like it's a token, if you use like um Binance or something like that, you have like different tokens. You can create your own tokens as well, can have value and things like that. So the designers are responsible for like designing digital tokens. So you have to have like an understanding of how blockchain works. So you basically like design everything that has to do with the token, right? Everything, probably like the maybe the name of the token, the logo, everything basically surrounding like how the token should look like. So you don't have to probably code, but you need to understand how blockchain works to be able to know how to design all the things related to the token. So those are token designers. Then Web3 data analyst is basically everything on the blockchain is data. At the end of the day, like everything still goes back to data, right? We're trying to make data immutable. We're trying to make sure that data is safe. We're trying to make sure that people can trace data. So as a Web3 data analyst, your job is basically to like, analyze all the data applicable to the solution that you're trying to solve. So basically like data analysis, right? But mostly tailored to blockchain.
That is amazing. So, those are our channels for those who are just joining us. We have the very exclusive developer chats. The mission is simple, right? To bring developers across the African continent into the one place where they can get first-hand information into what is going on at BNB, and then receive education from amazing persons such as Busayo, and also get to learn how to build and deploy on the BNB chain, right? And for me, I am very, very, very deliberate and passionate about this. And please join us. So one thing that we aim for in the channel, it's not to like burden you with too much conversations, but give you value, just as we expect that we're able to like get value from you. Because practically, like I said, education and innovation, our goal is simple: to educate you enough up to the point where you start innovating and then you start building on BNB chain. Thank you very much for the comments, guys. Opeyemi says learning a lot in this meeting,
Thank
and
you.
we have comments from other guys. Like I said, Busayo, lots of fans. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Justice. And yeah, we actually have Sadiq here with us.
Thanks, Sadiq.
Hi, Sadiq. And then Emmanuel, thank you so much. Um, thank you very much, Samuel. And Mari, hi, Mari. Mari says she loves seeing women represented in the space. An amazing
Thanks,
presentation.
thanks, Mary.
Yeah. So I think we actually have one other question that I want you to answer, Busayo.
Yeah.
It's from Samuel. He says, fully on up on your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want privacy, why not use Web 2?
Yeah. So I know this is like a pretty like large argument. I've also had the argument because I also come from like a Web2 background, right? And I have the argument like every time with my friends who are not convinced enough or something to like jump on them. But I would say that, so because blockchain basically like has like um is leveraging cryptography. So like there are so many like underlining like cryptography, like hashing and things like that, that are most likely needed for some businesses which Web2 cannot give you. So there are, I would say like the reason why you might not want to use Web 2, right, is because of the cryptography technology, basically. Like the whole hashing thing around blockchain is why we probably like we want to use Web3 and still want privacy, right? And then, like I said earlier, it still depends like on the use case you're trying to solve, right? There are still some use cases that requires that you need privacy. So I hope that like answers the question. It's not really I'm not really trying to convince you, right? But I'm just trying to make you see things like in another perspective, basically.
So, like, the great debaters would popularly say, trying to not confuse you, but actually to convince you. Is that it?
Yeah.
So, Precious, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Nicodemus. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Um, Precious says thanks. Nicodemus says wonderful. Really love this. Hope you stick with us for the next couple of weeks, because this is going to last for an entire 6 weeks. And the idea is to take you from the introductory aspect to where we actually have you deploying contracts on chain. So we have another very interesting question from Chris, and
Okay.
he's asking, how do you avoid double spending on blockchains?
I'm not so clear with that question. What do you mean by double spending?
Oh, okay. I think Chris is actually asking about how, like, the settlement layer, right? How do you ensure that when you send out a transaction, right, that transaction is not repeated immediately, yeah, or it's not duplicated?
Oh, okay. That probably like will be on your smart contract implementation. So that's why like you see like so many hacks like with blockchain because like once you write, smart contracts are immutable. So once you write a smart contract, that's the way it is. So as a developer, right, when you write like a smart contract, you have to like put like certain like checks, certain like requirements that some transactions shouldn't happen more than once. This solely rests like on the smart contract development. So it really depends like on the smart contract. But as a user, you can't really control it, right? It's the developers that can actually like control that part, basically.
Okay. Moving on to more comments. Jay says, thank you. Precious is saying, awesome. And Mas is saying, thanks, Busayo. This is really lovely. So I think Soccer Focus must be a data analyst, because this is their second question
Oh,
about
okay.
data. So it says a Web3 data analyst different from a research analyst.
So this question is quite a good question because in the end, all these job roles I'm mentioning, right, depends on the company that you're working for, right? So the company that you're working for might want you to double as a data analyst and a research analyst, right? They're supposed to be different roles, right? Because data analyst is basically like um stuff around like data or something. And then research analyst might just be like, okay, you're trying to research like different technologies. So for example, as a research analyst, right, for your company, you might be researching about BNB chain and then some other chains that we have. And then maybe weekly you come up like with a publication or something. That's like something like a research analyst would do. But then in another company, a Web3 data analyst might double as a research analyst, and a research analyst might double as a Web3 data analyst. So I would say it depends on the company and the job description they are working for.
Oh, thank you very much for that answer, Busayo. So, more positive comments. Vincent says, great session, guys. And Femi is saying, thanks, Busayo and Emmanuel. And Victory is saying, thank you so much. This was a super informative session. Thank you for tuning in, Victory. And so Femi says, Sadiq, surprised to see you here. And I think I want to say something particularly about this comment, right? Because for what is what, this is our continent. This is where we live. We practically, you would mention a name and you practically know the person as long as they are playing in the Web3 space or even playing in the Web2 space, right? And we're able to like build organic relationships and be able to like heavily invest in each other. And I think this is as good as any time to say very, very special thank you to you, Busayo, right? For accepting to come on and share from your word of experience, like taking out of your time to share with everybody here on this call. And then I also want to use this opportunity to speak to everybody on this call, right? So this is for us, like for me, particularly, right? This is a mission that I am on to ensure that I bring enough people into the ecosystem and enough projects, right? So if you have friends that have that you know are developers and are trying to get into the Web3 space, please tell them to come join us on Telegram. You can share the link with them, and then they can join us, right? We are actually going to be having more programs like this coming up, and also have weekly check-ins where we are able to like follow the progress of developers and make sure that they grow from where they are to where they want to be next, right? And also, if you're also established in the space, we want you to come and innovate with us. Bring your ideas, bring your projects, and come build them on the BNB chain. Soccer Focus is saying, great session. Samuel is saying, thank you very much, Busayo. You really do have a lot of fans.
Thank you for joining.
So, Massifying says incredible. So, and then Joshua says, thank you guys. Looking forward to many more great contents. Yes, stick with us for the next 6 weeks. Join us on Telegram, both in the larger community and in the developer community. And watch out for more programs that we are going to be bringing your way through the course of the year, right? So, but what we ask of you is this, or what I ask of you is this, right? Learn, learn, and then build, right? Just start small from wherever you are. During these next 6 weeks, we're going to have people come on and then teach you about the varying aspects of smart contracts and BNB chain technology, and then you can just pick up something and then start building out the project. So we have a question here from Emmanuel. He says, does that mean that Web3 is more private and secure than Web2 due to its features?
Tricky question, but I'll say, I'm not going to answer directly, right? But I'll say like, depending on like what you're building, right? The privacy like is in your hands. That's how I'll answer that.
Oh, okay. That is short and precise, right? And
Yeah.
that's like quickly segues into our next questions from Dari, where he's asking, what is the relationship between Web 2 and Web 3?
So for there's okay, I mean, based on like the evolution of how like the web stay like um coming. So we have like web one, right? We have web two and web three. And web two basically like was an improvement from web one because like web one was just like, basic like static pages and things like that. So like you couldn't like interact. There was nothing like, chatting and things like that. And then Web 2 came and then fixed that problem. And then we started having like, somebody will like you have a blog and then another person can comment. Basically it was interactive. So Web 1 was interactive, Web 2 was interactive. Now Web 3 comes to solve the problem um about owning your data. So like having like the rights and being able to like control your data, transparency basically. So it's related because it's like an improvement of Web 2 in the sense that like in Web 2 you still have like the central authority like banks and things like that to handle your transactions, but in Web 3 it's the technology that handles your transactions for you. But then like I always say, like there's actually no Web 3 without Web 2. So if we didn't like come up with like interactive way of like probably like sending money to each other, Web 3 might probably like now have been conceptualized. Like I said in the session, if there was no like digital ledger and things like that, like if there was no database, probably like Web 3 would not have been able to envisage that okay, we can have like database that can be transparent. So yeah, like that's like the relationship between both of them.
Awesome, Busaya, awesome. And thank you very much for that question, Dari. So while we are still here and looking at comments, Victory is saying hi to Josh. Nice to see you here. Guys, I would want you to like do me a favor, right? Quickly in the comments, just drop us and tell us where you are joining us from across the African continent, right? Because amongst other things, we want to make sure that we are reaching developers wherever you are, right? Just so that we are able to like bring this knowledge to a lot more people, right? So in the comments, just quickly share with us where we are joining us from. And while you people are dropping in their comments, we have just a few more questions here, Busayo, that I want us to answer before we wrap up, right? So Dari is asking again, what are the needed certification for being a data analyst, and where can one get it? I really don't know if you have insights to that.
So is this question like tailored to blockchain or just like general like data analysis? So if
Yes.
it's yeah, I'm not like that's the question I'll ask. But if it's like for blockchain, you don't necessarily need to have like certifications, right? So you just basically need to understand like how like blockchain data and stuff like that. But personally, I would recommend because data is quite like extensive, so you probably need like an idea of how data works like in Web 2 before you like dive into like how data works for Web 3. So for Web 2, basically you can get like certifications from places like Udemy, Coursera. Yeah, those are like the two places that you can get like certifications from.
Oh, that is interesting. That is interesting. Thank you very much, guys. So I think that is about our last question, right? And I want to say thank you so much to everyone joining us from across the African continent. We have people from Uganda, a lot of folks from Nigeria, a whole lot of folks from Uniben, and yeah, a lot of folks from Benin. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And guys, I want to say this. So we are actively building communities across the continent. Developer communities, and then we are reaching out to students across different universities. We started with the University of Benin some 2 weekends ago. So please watch out. We would be in your country, in your city, and your school soon. And also, you can look up our Martians program where I am actively looking for student ambassadors. And if you know you are that one person that I am looking for from your country, please do sign up and come be join me at BNB Chain as we push the vision of reaching people across the African continent with enough education, just as we plan to educate, and also empower these people that we give this education to be able to build and innovate. So I think we are slowly winding down the session. Busayo, uh, thank you so much for joining us. What are your parting words for us for this session?
Okay, well, I'll say things might look like maybe as gibberish now. You might still not be convinced that okay, why do I have to like jump on the Web 3 wagon and things like that. But I'll just advise that you should just like follow the technology closely because I'm a very big fan of like following technology closely, right? So if you see like people talk about like some things or technology, I think you should just be curious enough. You probably might not be 100% right on it, but just try to like follow it like and just have an idea of how it works. And then honestly, this is how it happens. Like it's just going to click for you one day and just be like, okay, you're just going to be part of it. And then I would also say that if you want to, because I'm a developer, so if you're interested in like maybe being a developer or something like a Web 3 developer, I would advise that you actually start off as being a developer like for Web 3, and then like if you're also basically any technical role like data analyst, developer, business analyst, product managers, and things like that, it's most likely like better you start like you have some idea of how it works like in the real life because it kind of gives you some context. Because if you know how it works regularly, like normally, like in the Web 2 space, it gives you some context why you have to do it like using the blockchain. So yeah, those are like my parting words. Is the man out there?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so thank you so much for Busayo. Thank you. Right.
Thank you
I
for
could I could
enjoying myself.
it's really been a delight having this conversation, right? You walked us through an entire syllabus, right? What you delivered here this evening could actually be taught during an entire course in like for an entire course during the course of a semester in a university, right? But here you have given us a masterclass. I want to say thank you so much. It's been an honor and a delight.
Thank you for having me.
So Busayo, I still have you there, right?
Yes, yes, I'm here. Yep, I'm here, Emmanuel. If you can hear me.
Awesome, awesome. So many thanks to everyone for joining us. This is where we close the curtains for today. Oh, okay. This is where we close the curtains for today. And please remember that these sessions are going to run for the next 6 weeks. So this is just day one. That means we have 5 more days to go. And each of the sessions is going to be handled by very different course instructors. So each week you're going to be seeing someone new. So next week we are going to be looking at the BNB documentation, and then that is going to be a very special session for front-end developers who want to like understand how to quickly pick up the tools in the BNB chain ecosystem, particularly our APIs, and then start building out applications immediately, right? And also we are going to be giving deeper insight into the docs for those who want to understand how BNB chain works at the infrastructure layer. So this is where I say thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you again same time next week. And for those who are yet to join our Telegram channel, please kindly do so. That is the link right there that is going to be displaying at the bottom of the screen. So you can click it also in the comment section, and then it will bring you direct into Telegram where you can come join us, and also share this link with your developer friends. And also, if you have friends that are yet to sign up for the course, also you would find the link to do that in the comments, and you can share that with them as well, particularly for those who are on break from school right now. So the goal is simple, to take you from zero to mastery level in Web3 technologies and here on BNB Chain. So that is our goal, to educate you enough up to the point where you start to innovate. Thank you very much, Africa, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Let's do this again, same time next week, Friday. See you guys. Thank you,
Bye.
Busayo.
Bye.